Alright guys, so we're going to talk about functions and the function sort cards that you looked at yesterday in class. If you remember from yesterday's discussion, a function is a special type of relation where each member of the domain has only one member of the range, the y. So each x has only one y. And that's what we use to help us with trying to figure out if something is a function or not a function. And we can look at all the different types of relations in order to figure this out. So if I look at the function sort cards, we're looking at the top row and we're looking at the table first. I have the ordered pairs 1, -2, 3, 4, and 5, 10. Each of these x's only has one y, so that means this is a function. A grocery store is selling peaches for 98 cents per pound. So every pound you're going to be paying 98 cents. So every time you put in a pound, you're only going to get one price out of it. So this situation is also a function. If I look at this graph over here, this graph is an absolute value graph, but even if you didn't know that, I'm looking at along my x-axis, and I'm looking to see if each x value only has one y value. And as I look along this, I see that each x only has one y value, so this is also a function. When you have a graph, you can do something called the vertical line test, where you take a vertical line and you move it across the graph, and you see if your line hits that graph in more than one spot. And in this case, it does not. When I move down to the second line, and I apologize if this is a little dark, I'm looking at the first box, and I have 2's in all of my boxes, and each 2 has a different y value. So if I were to graph these as ordered pairs, I would have 2, -1, 2, -3, and 2, -5. So this is not a function. This is just a relation. This is not a function. With this middle box, I have a graph, and if you notice this section right here in the middle, this vertical section, that x value would have multiple y values. Anything along that line would have a different y value. So this is also not a function. And in my last one, you visit a yard sale with your friends Pete, Sharon, and Brandon. Brandon buys 4 old CDs for $8. Sharon buys 3 old CDs for $6. Pete talks to the seller and makes a deal to buy 4 CDs for $7. So this fact here, that we have 4 CDs and $7 and 4 CDs and $8, shows us that this is also not a function. That x value of 4 would have 2 different y values, $8 and $7. When I look at the third line, I'm looking at this graph, and along this graph, every x value would have only one y value, so this is a function. On the next problem, I need to take a look at it as a graph because we haven't talked about how to graph this yet. So if you have an equation like this, I could go to my calculator, and in y equals, let me clear out everything here. I'm going to type 3x plus 2. I want a standard window. And when I take a look at that graph, it's a straight line. Each x will only have one y value. So this is also a function. When I take a look at the table at the end, I have 3 x values, -2, 0, and 2. Each of those matches up to a y. Now I have 2 y values of 10. But that doesn't matter. All that matters is that each x value only has one y value. -2, 10, 0, 6, 2, 10. Each x value only has one y value. So this is also a function. When I go down to the last problem, last rows, I'm going to again type in an equation. I have x squared. I'm going to take a look at a standard window. And this is actually a parabola. I believe we talked about this in class a little bit. If not, a parabola opens up on one end, goes down and comes up, or we have the reverse. Again, each x value will only have one y value. So this is a function. When I look at the table, I have 3 different x values. Yes, the y values are the same, but my x values only have one y. So this is also a function. And the last graph, if I were to use that vertical line test that we spoke about, and I move a vertical line across my screen, I would notice with this x value here, I would have multiple y values. And I see that a couple of times across the graph. So this would not be a function, so not a function. So on this worksheet, we had 4 that were not functions and the rest were functions. Remember that for a relation to be a function, each x can only have one y value. Hopefully this helps you as you begin working on your next assignment.